With me now is CNN's Kristen Holmes. Kristen, if you can explain exactly what is in these executive actions, because it certainly looks like you have to read the fine print here.
Oh, you certainly do. And let's start with the unemployment benefits, because the way that Larry Kudlow was explaining it is not the way that experts and lawyers have been explaining it to us since they came out last night. Now, essentially, here's what we know. We know that Americans, up until those talks stalled, were getting $600 a week from the federal government, in addition to whatever they were getting from the states. And this, of course, was for unemployment. President Trump saying, well, now you're going to get $400. But it's not that simple. It's not as though tomorrow people are going to start getting checks for $400. And in fact, some experts believe that most Americans, or many unemployed Americans, will never see these benefits. And here is why. President Trump is actually only offering $300 in federal assistance. He is saying that the states have to chip in the extra 25%, which is, of course, $100. Now, as we know, as we've been reporting, these states are in economic shambles, many of them completely wrecked by the coronavirus. They are asking themselves for federal money for help. So whether or not they're going to be able to chip in that $100, as Larry Kudlow put it, it really remains up in the air. But here's the catch. If they don't sign on to a financial agreement with the White House, then no one in the state who needs the money gets any of the money. They don't get any $300. They don't get any $400. The governors have to agree to pay that $100 for the federal government to chip in anything. And not only do they have to agree to pay that money, but they also have to agree to administer that money. Here's why that's complicated. This is an entirely new program. This is not the unemployment program that we have seen that was distributing that $600. This is completely different. It's a lost wages program. So many experts, again, saying they don't know how quickly or if at all this could happen. And I just want to note the other three things here, because they are very important. The other is that eviction. This is not an eviction moratorium as President Trump explained that it would be. This is more of a, as a constitutional lawyer put it to me, play nice, please. This is the president asking agencies to just consider whether or not evictions are mandatory if they are needed. So that's one other thing. Now, student debt deferment, that is a student loan deferment, that is completely straightforward. It is as it is. And then the payroll tax cut, that is incredibly complicated, and it's unclear whether or not it's going to be put into effect, because companies themselves are going to have to sign off on it, Jim.
Okay, Kristen Holmes, a lot of things to sort through here as we go through these executive orders. We know you stay on top of it. Kristen Holmes, thank you very much. I'm joined now by the Trump campaign senior advisor, Jason Miller. Jason, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Let's walk through this a little bit. Does the president's use of executive actions mean the president is unable to get anything done? What happened to the deal maker, Donald Trump, that we all heard about during the 2016 campaign?
Well, Jim, thank you for having me on. I think what this shows is that President Trump is willing to step up and lead when Congress is not willing to, or when Congress leaves town and doesn't get the job done that they're actually being paid to do. And we've seen presidents step up at various points in their presidencies and exert more of a broader use of executive powers. We saw it with President Reagan. We talked about the air traffic controllers going back to 1981. We've seen a number of times, even with President Trump early on in his administration, taking the actions regarding deregulation to try to get the economy going and to get that additional growth. But the fact of the matter is here, we need to get Congress back. We need to get the House back, the Senate back. They need to pass this, quit screwing around. Let's get it done and help people. We cannot be playing games with people's lives here.
You know, I ask this because this is exactly what he said about President Obama's use about executive orders. Here's President Trump when he was running for office 4 years ago.
Obama goes around signing executive orders. He can't even get along with the Democrats. And he goes around signing all these executive orders. It's a basic disaster. You can't do it.
We have a president that can't get anything done, so he just keeps signing executive orders all over the place. I hate what Obama does with gun legislation, where he doesn't talk to anybody. He just goes out and signs, like last time, executive orders. In theory, you're supposed to, the old-fashioned way, get everybody into a room and get something that people agree on.
I don't even think he tries anymore. I think he just signs executive actions.
Jason, why doesn't the president just get everybody into a room and get them to agree to something like he was saying during the campaign? He didn't even get involved in the negotiations over the last week.
Jim, Jim, the president has been very involved with the negotiations and working closely with Secretary Mnuchin and Chief of Staff Meadows in this. But I think we need to kind of hit the brake on this for a moment here and say, why is this being so politicized? Again, this is about making sure that we're getting people the money they need to be able to live, to be able to pay their mortgages, to be able to put food on the table. And for Congress to be checked out right now, I think this is going a little bit, I think they're a dereliction of duty. They need to get back and get it done. But I think with President Trump willing to step up and use some executive orders here to find another way to get this done, I think people will be very appreciative of that. Now, is this the simplest, most straightforward path on some of these EOs to go and actually accomplish the goal? No. But finally, there's somebody who's going to stand up for people, and that's what President Trump is doing. I'm really disappointed in Congress that both chambers aren't getting this done as we speak, Jim.
But, you know, as a conservative, Jason, conservatives have railed against presidents who use executive actions. They did it with President Obama when he was in office. Why should President Trump get a pass on this?
Well, again, we're talking about actually going and making sure that we're able to help people in their lives, whether it's food on the table or paying their mortgages. But the fact of the matter is Congress is taking a walk here, and they're not doing their jobs. In fact, I don't think Congress should get paid at all if they're not going to show up and actually do their jobs here, and people are relying on these unemployment benefits.
But is the president doing his job? The president, last weekend was out golfing. There were Republican members of Congress saying they didn't want the president involved in the negotiations. He was not dealing directly with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and the Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. He was leaving that to his deputies. It sounds like he wasn't getting the job done. And should he get paid?
No, I think, look, Jim, and all I know is what I watched on CNN earlier in the day, and I thought Dana Bash did a marvelous job of really putting it to Speaker Pelosi earlier and saying, Madam Speaker, don't you bear some responsibility in this matter? And the fact of the matter is, this is Congress, this is the Senate that needs to come back and actually do this. I personally am thankful that President Trump went and signed these 4 executive orders yesterday to go and push it forward, to come up with some other solution if Congress is going to keep playing these political games. And this is, again, these are existing programs, what President Trump is saying that Congress needs to come back and take care of. But if they're not going to, it's good that we have a president like this who will look for solutions to try to help people out during this time. And again, we're hit by a global pandemic. Nobody could have expected this. Nobody knew that this was coming or what the impact would be on our society, not just the economy, but we talked about the 161,000 lives that have been lost during this. And at a time right now, we got to figure out how to come together at this time. And that's why I'm glad that President Trump is putting the pathway forward, whether it be the pursuit for therapeutics and vaccines. I wish Congress would stop playing games, Jim.
And I want to get your reaction to some reporting in the New York Times. The paper says that South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem greeted the president at his 4th of July event at Mount Rushmore with a 4-foot replica of Mount Rushmore with his likeness included. Apparently, according to the article, aides to the president also reached out to find out whether or not the president, could actually be added to Mount Rushmore. Why should President Trump even contemplate being added to Mount Rushmore? Wouldn't he be a more likely candidate were he on top of this coronavirus pandemic?
Jim, I have no idea what that was about Mount Rushmore. Again, I think it might just be an overzealous supporter or something of that nature. It's certainly not anything that I've ever discussed with President Trump. I think further down the road, I'd be very supportive of it. But no, this is a very serious time right now, and I think it's probably just someone who got a little bit ahead of themselves.
And the report also says that Governor Noem traveled to the White House, met with Vice President Mike Pence. There were some concerns, I guess, in the Pence team that the governor was after his job. Is Mike Pence going to be on this ticket? Can you guarantee that Mike Pence is going to be Donald Trump's running mate heading into the fall?
Oh, absolutely. And Vice President Pence has done a fantastic job in the role. He's been an excellent wingman for the president. He's a strong leader, someone who's been a governor and a member of Congress before that. He's done a great job of leading the task force. Very impressed with the job that the vice president has been doing. And it's, look, I know at this stage of the game, people like to come up with all these different parlor games and some of the little political maneuvering, especially on the eve of waiting to see who Joe Biden is going to pick.
But why does this keep coming up? Mike Pence being dumped from the ticket. Why does that keep coming up? Doesn't the president like Mike Pence?
Jim, you're the first person to bring this up to me in weeks. I mean, maybe someone else did weeks ago, but the only time I ever hear it is, Jim, when I get it from you. But no, Vice President Pence is fantastic. He's not going anywhere. And look, he's going to have 4 more years as vice president, and then maybe he might move down the hallway after that.
All right, Jason Miller, thanks very much for joining us. We appreciate it.